Now, this year, we've been bringing you a special segment as part of the TTT NOW Morning Show called Future Forum. This segment is designed to give young people a seat at the table with national leaders and decision makers and empower their voices in national development discussions. The organization behind this is the Heroes Foundation, a development center for children and youth that has been operating in TNT for the past 20 years. And with us this morning is CEO Lawrence Arjun and Zion Benjamin, chair of the Generation to Generation Council. But before we get into this discussion, let's take a look at a video on children's feelings.
I want adults to recognize that children have feelings just as any one of us. So let us watch what we say and what we do.
We can end violence and abuse.
The power is in our hands.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I'm coming to you first, Lawrence, because as I would have said it in the opening, we have had visitors and, of course, people from the Heroes Foundation coming to us. But tell us exactly, who is the Heroes Foundation?
Sure. Thank you very much for having us this morning. I'm Kimberly, and a very special thank you to TTT for partnering with us for Future Forum.
Yeah.
Because empowering young people in national development discussions is core to what we do. So the Heroes Foundation, like you said, has been around for the last 20 years. And the whole idea is that we help to inspire and empower children and youth to find the hero within themselves. So that is to find the courage and the ability within themselves to overcome whatever life's challenges they face and go on to work together to build a safe and sustainable future. And there are three main things that we try to integrate together to do that. The first thing is personal interventions. So how do we support the development of young people, their psychosocial development, 21st century skills development, technical skills for work, and then now we've added in sustainability education. How do we help young people understand how they connect to the world around them, how the world interacts with them, and how they can go on and lead change. The other thing that we do is connect young people to the community and to collaboration opportunities, because young people are excited about getting involved in things. So we try to find opportunities, partner with organizations who are doing work in the country to get young people into there. And the third thing is really championing this youth inclusion in decision making, because young people are the future. And if we are making decisions now that they are going to have to lead in the future, they should be part of the decision making, which is where Future Forum comes in.
Yeah, and I like that seat at the table, and so I'm coming to you, Zion, because as chair of that Generation to Generation or G2G Council, what is the mandate of the council and how do they operate?
So thank you for having me. The Generation to Generation Council came about in 2021 after a cohort of graduates graduated from the program. This was in COVID time, so not much in-person activities as we were used to, and the organization knew that we must place the young people at the forefront of what we are doing. And to do this, they got together a group of our graduate alumni, I would say, and put us in this council to focus on what direction the organization should take in the short, medium, and long term. So that's how G2G came about. Our mandate really is to advise the organization on things that are important to us as young people and the way that we believe they should approach it going forward, engaging us so we can have a lot of data at the organization to have data-driven solutions.
Yeah. Zion, one of the conversations we hear, one of the issues we hear coming out a lot from adults is that we are making decisions for young people and they are not being included. And I think that is why the G2G is important. But what do young people need? What is it that we are as adults are missing? And what do you think young people need and they want to focus on?
So I think when we were studying for Future Forum, we came up with a few topics that were very important to young people. And the main ones were crime, the environment, and health. Because we first realized that in order to have a sustainable or a better Trinidad and Tobago, you must first have a healthy population to drive that change going forward. What we've noticed thus far in our communications with persons is that they often think that young people do not have the information or they do not know the information. These devices that we have here are very powerful, and there's a lot of information on the internet. So it's all about how do you channel and teach the young people how to get this information reliably. Because one of the things that we've been hearing from them is there's a lot of information there, but if we don't know how to find it in a responsible manner, we may not find the best information.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned reliable, because you're right, there's so much information out there. You have to know exactly which ones are the credible sources. I'm coming back to you, Lawrence, because I wanted to know, it's been in existence, this Heroes Foundation, for the past 20 years. Tell us some trends in terms of, you know, youth inclusion. Have you seen a change now that you've involved youth, at least in that decision-making process?
So one of the strengths of Heroes is having the child-centric approach of how we deliver. So the programs and the interventions that we deliver are rights-based. So with the rights of the child and the rights of young people are the focus. Strengths-based, meeting these children where they are at, understanding what their strengths are, and then trying to bridge the gap where it may be needed. And creating those spaces where they can share. So we work with currently about 350 young people across the country, locals and migrants. It's about 200 girls and 140 boys who we work with. One thing is consistent coming from what they say. Adults don't listen to children. At schools, at homes, wherever they go, adults do not listen to children. What they get with us when they come to us is a safe space where we aren't just sharing information with them. We are giving them a space where they can talk and where they can share and where they can interact. And that has had tremendous positive impacts on them. So we believe in data. We're not a very data-driven society, and we are trying to change that at Heroes. So we conducted a mental health and well-being assessment with, it was about 500 participants we had in the program last year. 95% of those children coming out of the pandemic were at risk of emotional behavioral problems. That is, they were having problems, they were at risk of having problems managing stress, managing their emotion, dealing with pressure, adapting to change. And it's something that we've seen even before the pandemic, but of course the pandemic has made it worse. So having spaces where children can talk. The last year we delivered a program on ending violence and abuse. And we've seen the number of school fights we've had in the country. One thing that has worked well, or that we've seen, is that when you give children spaces to talk and open up and share and build relationships, that directly impacts school violence. I want to shout out Goodwood Secondary School in Tobago, because they have a really great model. On Wednesday afternoons, there's no class. Every single child in the school is involved in extracurricular activity. Because when they came back out, there were the school fights, and they were concerned about what was happening. And they realized that if you give the children a chance to play, give the children a chance to interact, give the children a chance to talk and speak, you're going to get that relationship building.
But is that the only thing, Lawrence, or do you believe the open space and the safe space is one part of dealing with a bigger issue?
It's definitely one part of dealing with a bigger issue. Because when you look at children, you need integrated approach. Children, I mean, that video that we showed at the start is really important for us, because we want adults to realize and remember that children are people too. So children face all of the same things that adults face. Children have very similar experiences to adults. Children have less resources, and they have more people telling them what to do. So how do we create those safe spaces? Start listening, and when you start listening, then you start to figure out what the challenges are to provide the other interventions along the way. Because it's not just that. So we did a needs assessment with all of our participants. We do that annually, and then we do a problem assessment at the start of our program cycle, which is 3 years. There are 6 key barriers to the development of children that we found. One is economic well-being. So your ability to provide for your needs. And we could go into this some more.
Of course, because I want to pause you. So we'll go to 1 and we'll come back. But good discussion thus far. I love that I'm bringing in Zion in terms of what the youth want, because I think that's a really, really key issue that we need to discuss. But we're going to take a break right now and come back. Remember, I have Lawrence, who is the chair of the Heroes Foundation, well, CEO rather of the Heroes Foundation, and of course Zion, who is chair of the G2G Council. And we're going to be talking about youth inclusion and how important it is to hear those youth voices in our decision-making process. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are continuing our conversation with the Heroes Foundation. But before we continue, let's look at a video that focuses on youth inclusion.
Smalley.
What?
You looking good, Gil.
Big man, I too young for you. What you doing? We can end violence and abuse.
The power is in our hands.
Now, as I understand it, gentlemen, that was called Too Young for You. Before I come back to you, tell us about this video, Zion.
So this video is out of our Spotlight series, and I think it's really important to understand how impactful that was.
Yeah.
It took place in over 30 secondary schools, and it really focused on educating young people about the issue of violence and how do we eliminate violence. The different schools were allocated some grants, and they were forced, in a good way, of course, to develop projects that could combat the issue of violence locally. So, as Lawrence mentioned, safe spaces. I visited a few schools, so El Dorado West Secondary had their stress room. Bishop Anstey Trinity College East had a wall where you can go and stand and just relax a bit. And this video was a part of that series, an excellent series put on by the young people of the Heroes Foundation.
I think so, very powerful indeed. I'm coming back to you, Lawrence, because before we took the break, you were giving us those 6 items. Continue with that one.
Sure, and I mean, the video speaks to one of them.
Yeah.
So 6 barriers that we see to the development of young people. One is economic well-being, your ability to provide for your needs, for the families to provide to their living needs. Employment, access, and accessibility. So not only the ability to access jobs, but not only the ability to get jobs, but your ability as a young person to get into jobs, to show up for an interview, to be part, to deliver an interview well, to have the skills so when you go into the workplace, you can work as a team, you can think critically, you can communicate. Social behavioral challenges, emotional behavioral challenges, and academic behavioral challenges. Spoke to the emotional behavioral challenges before, the rest of the same. So what are your barriers to this? And then crime, violence, and abuse. So that's where that last video came in, because that last video, every single woman I know in Trinidad and Tobago
has gone through it.
Experienced that.
Yep.
And the children experience it too. But children are scared to speak up because it's an adult telling them something. Or when you speak up, if it's somebody that you know who is doing that to you and telling you those things, and you speak up, somebody tells you to leave it alone. And that is one of the big issues. So our interventions at Heroes come together to work towards dismantling these barriers and giving the children that we work with an opportunity to build sustainable lives and livelihoods and overcome all of those challenges.
So then when can children, whether they're experiencing that type of issue or a similar type, can they come to the Heroes Foundation? I mean, how much of an involvement does the Heroes Foundation play in a particular example like that?
So with the children that we work with, they have direct access to it because it's not just about the programs we deliver, it's about providing all of the support around it. We have coordinators who, it's a 24/7 job. It's like teachers. It's a 24/7 job because it's not just delivering your curriculum content to young people, it's listening to them. The social work part of teaching is why a lot of teachers are memorable. And people remember the teachers who listen to you, who gives you advice. That's what we do in the program. So it's providing support to the children, providing support to the parents, and letting them know that they could come to us. Because we have a legal responsibility. If a child comes to us and discloses, we have to report. We have to report to the Children's Authority, we have to report to the police. It's something that anybody who's responsible for a child has to do. Now, children can come to us if they have any need for assistance, support, guidance. They can go to the guidance counselors in the schools.
Yes.
They can go to the teachers. Now, we've been told from children that a lot of times when they do, they're told, not a lot of times, sometimes when they do, they are told, don't share so much information with me because I have to report. And this is where the adults need to come in and step in because we are facing the reality that young people are facing violence and abuse in either their homes, their communities, even at the schools. And when they come to you, you should be responsible enough to listen and hear what they have to say and direct that to the necessary authorities. We can't complain that the police aren't working with the Children's Authority isn't working if we aren't doing our part to raise the issues with them.
Yeah. Zion, I want to hear from you from that youthful perspective as well. How can we, and by we I mean adults, how can we continue to support you? Because Lawrence raised on a very important issue when he said, you know, sometimes you will go to your guidance counselor or whoever, and they say, don't share because I have to report. Yes. But what else do you need from us adults to support you, whether it be in that situation where an adult is trying to, you know, manipulate you or other other type of support that you need?
So I think the fact is that these spaces where young people feel comfortable, it's hard to recognize. I often hear people say, if you're with your friends and it's about a girl, don't take she on, in the colloquial terms. However, it's to start at that level where within your friend group you can say, what's going on? Let's have a conversation. I think what Lawrence mentioned about safe spaces is also very important, because having those places where you can go and speak to someone, speaking to a guidance counselor, a social worker, is still, it's kind of stigmatized and it's taboo. Especially we've noted a lot with our migrants and members of the LGBTQI community, how they feel about having conversations with people, because not all the time your social worker may be open to something like that, and you may feel judged. And I think opportunities like this, what we have here right now, where young people have a chance to really connect and chat with people on a decision-making level. Coming out of Future Forum at Energy Conference, Minister Young would have committed to the young persons there that we will look to see how we can implement the government policy, which is already in place, on switching off the lights in government buildings, which is a simple thing. However, he mentioned how difficult this has been to implement. So it's getting those spaces where you can get those commitments and then follow up and feel like we as young people are being taken seriously.
And I have a follow-up for you, Zion. How hard or easy is it to reprimand your own friends? We have the safe spaces, yeah, we have people we can come to, but you are in a group, you're liming, you're hanging out, we're using colloquial terms here, right? And you see a young lady pass and one of your friend catcalls. I mean, how easy or difficult is it for you to reprimand and say, yo, you shouldn't be doing things like that? Is it difficult in your group? Does it depend on the group, the environment? Talk to me.
I think it's very dependent on the environment and who you are friends with. If I choose to keep a good group of friends like Lawrence and yourself, Kimberly,
Lawrence blushed.
then I know that I will be pulled up.
Right.
However, if I'm in a group where the persons don't really have standards, and it's a cultural thing, it's how we have naturally been throughout the years, and it's something that we have to change. Changing mindsets is very difficult. So once we get to that point where we can all unanimously agree that catcalling is wrong, then we would begin to see a change.
Yeah.
It's all about that group environment.
Yeah, and of course catcalling was one example, but I just wanted to know how it was in groups in terms of if you can reprimand your friends or pull them up, you know, when they're doing something wrong.
I also think that you feel a kind of way about your friends.
Yeah.
So when they do certain things, I look at it as you have to be your brother's keeper or your sister's keeper and work together to see them improving. And that's all what we try to do at G2G. Work together, get this group of young people together and work on developing and building great citizens to build a better Trinidad and Tobago, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
Lawrence, I think if Zion is any example of what you're doing with G2G and of course with the Heroes Foundation, I think you're on the right track. And I know that there are mummies and daddies and guardians who are home who want to know how they can get their children involved in it. One, and anybody who wants to help donate or to help the foundation, how can they go about doing those two things?
Sure, thanks. Thanks for that, Kimberly. We are limited by resources to do the work that we can do. So right now we are in 13 secondary schools and we work with migrant communities. We had a digital group online that we started last year, but we've not been able to continue it. We want to be able to expand our resources and have people access us digitally as much as possible, but we need support to do it because we run on the kindness and the collaboration of other people who see the value of the work that we are doing. So people can get access to information. We have a bunch of online courses that we're rolling out on our Heroes Academy platforms. That's psychosocial development, that's sustainability education, and some technology skills too very soon. People can go online and access those things for free. So that is what we have available to the public. If you're in a school that we are in, you can speak to the liaison teacher inside about getting your child involved in the program. If you'd like to support us, check us out on the social media platforms and get in contact with us because we really have to work together. You see it with Zion.
Yes.
Young people need support. We need collaboration because if we want sustainability, we need to have everyone working together towards this common goal.
Yeah. Lawrence, Zion, a pleasure to have you in. Looking forward to next week Monday's conversation as well. But for now, thank you so much for joining us and all the best with the foundation.
Thank you very much.
And of course, that was Lawrence Arjun, the CEO of the Heroes Foundation, and Zion Benjamin, chair of the G2G Council, just sharing a bit about youth inclusion. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.